I'm Megan. Thanks for joining me on my YouTube channel. It's a beautiful day here, and I've been doing a lot of sitting and traveling, so I thought I'd do a practice that addresses those of us who need to sit a lot, hip flexion and extension. So I'm sitting in a chair just to start, and you don't need the chair, but hip flexion, understanding that when we're in a seated position, our hips are flexed, but they're not at their end point of flexion. So we're going to take our muscles to their end point in both directions. So in flexion, that would mean that I could actually bring the leg closer, right? But I got to use my muscles to do that. And then the other way we're going to be working on taking the leg today is I'm going to stand up and come over here is through extension. So the leg when it's behind you or when you feel shortening through the back of the leg and a lengthening through the front. So some of us are tight here when we've been sitting a lot. That tends to happen. We'll be going into that end range of motion as well. And this is truly a body prayer practice. I'll be combining some somatic movement, a little bit of yoga therapy, a yoga posture, Anjasana or low lunge, and then a Yin posture at the end. So I hope you enjoy it. And thank you to all my Patreons who are sponsoring me and keeping this channel going. You will need two blocks. You don't need the chair unless if you have a wall. So you need a chair or a wall. And come on, we're going to start standing. So I'm going to take this block and I'm going to put the block underneath my right foot. Standing on the block like my pedestal. Let that left leg dangle just for a moment, and you're either holding on to the chair or hand to a wall with the left hand because we want to stabilize. Stack your ears over your shoulders and your shoulders over your hips. And then take your thigh bone and imagine plugging it into your hip. So what will happen is your feet will now be at the same height as if the left leg was also standing on a block, though it's not. So the muscles are going to pull that leg up, and now your pelvis is even. That left hip isn't dropping. They're at the same height. So we're going to keep that. And then turn your toes in just a little bit inward on the left foot, in towards like they're trying to look at your right foot. And begin to slowly swing the leg forward as far as you can go and back. So what often happens, I'm going to turn sideways just to show you, you're swinging away here, waking up that hip. So as we come forward, that is the flexion. As we go back, what sometimes happens when we're tighter is our shoulders do this. We want to keep the upper body posture and think of your leg as a pendulum. And the pendulum, the top of the pendulum is the hip crease. So all of the movement is coming from the hip crease, even if that limits it. I know if I let my shoulders come, I can take my leg way back. That's not the point. So you're just kind of feeling that and that leg staying plugged in. And notice what muscles are bringing the leg forward. So you should feel more of like your quadriceps, your big thigh muscles in the front, bringing the leg forward as the back stretches. And as you go back, you'll feel your hamstrings and your glutes, among others, pulling that leg back, and the front stretches. Just kind of playing with that range of motion. This is a nice one to do if you have been sitting all on its own. And then let the leg drop. Let it just hang. And let it swing. Just be playful and let the leg swing. This is really nice for our psoas muscle as well. This is in one of my psoas videos, which is one of the muscles of hip flexion, and it gets tight because we sit. So just swinging it. And then we're going to let that left foot come down, come off of our pedestal, and just pause for a moment and feel any difference in the two legs, anything going on. And then I'm going to keep facing you, but I want you to switch the block to the left foot, and you would take your right hand or your right hand to either the wall or a chair. I'm going to keep facing you though, but the block is going to go into the left. We're just going to switch sides. So once again, feel your right thigh bone and imagine plugging the thigh bone into the hip socket, right? We got a ball there. You're going to plug the ball in the top of the hip into the socket. Turn your toes inward just a little bit. So you're internally rotating your thigh. And then play with how far can you go towards flexion, coming forward, and how far can you come to extension, going behind you. Notice that left leg has to be strong to hold you. And watch that our head's not coming forward, our shoulders aren't dipping back and forth. Visualize, you can close your eyes, visualize this pendulum swing from your circumference of your hip crease back and forth. And just exploring What is your active range of motion? How far will the muscles take you? And can you feel the muscles in the front of the thigh when they engage? You might even pause for a moment. And can you feel the muscles in the back of the thigh and the buttocks when they engage? Do you feel abdominal muscles helping to draw the leg forward? One more, just exploring. And then let the leg dangle. Let it just fall and swing it a little bit. Playfully swing it. So when I've been sitting a lot at my computer, I'll sometimes get up and just do this. So if that's your case, that's all the time you have. Thanks for joining me. Otherwise, we're going to continue on. We'll take the foot down, and I'm going to step off my pedestal, and we'll be coming down onto the mat. So if you had a chair, go ahead and remove that chair. From the seated position on your mat, we're going to come all the way down onto our backs and relax. Look up at the sky and make any movements that feel like it's going to loosen and release your body. I always think of the moving parts of the body, or think of your favorite animal and how they wake themselves up. Our dogs, our cats. Just feel free to kind of roll around and squirm. Any noises come out, all the better. Familiarize your back body with the floor. I'm doing this with my legs bent, so there's no pulling through the front of the thighs or the low back. Feet on the floor, but you can also do it with your legs long if you prefer. We're just feeling into this space. We have to feel the parts to find the whole. And then pausing for just a moment. We are going to bend the knees if they're not there. Place the feet on the floor. And we'll start with the right leg once again. So it's find your breath in and out. You might even feel it through your belly, your chest, your lungs. Find your breath first. And then as you're breathing out, just simply lift the right leg up and draw it into your body. And you'll feel your low back sort of curl up towards the sky. As you breathe in, set that leg back down. And breathe out. Draw the right leg in. So think as you're exhaling, it's like the leg is coming in and squeezing the breath out of the belly. And you might feel even a slight contraction in the belly, a tightening. So we're taking the leg deeper into hip flexion, that right leg. And just see how that feels. Take the next one in and hold it for just a few breaths wherever you're comfortable. Try not to use your arms, because what I see when people use their arms is they tighten their shoulders and they squeeze. Use your muscles to hold that leg in. So activate the muscles. Let the muscles in the leg hold the leg as opposed to the muscles in the arm. Let the arm stay relaxed. Just a few breaths. Familiarize yourself with how far can you draw that leg in. And then let the foot come back down to the floor. Release for a moment. We'll do the same thing with the left leg. So take a breath in, take a breath out, and draw the leg in. Breath in, drop the foot down, feel your low back long. Breath out, draw the leg in. I even draw the top of the foot towards my shin, so I'm really pulling in. Breath in, I drop down. The other thing you can check is the line as far as, does it feel better to have your leg a little wider to the side? You can play. It doesn't have to be in this straight line with your shoulder every time. You can go out to the side more. You can go to the center of your body. So not having to repeat that same movement pattern every time. Don't get stuck. Just bring it up, in on the exhalation. And next one, pull it in, draw it in, and feel those stabilizing forces drawing the leg in towards your body. Again, you can pull the top of the foot towards the shin as well. I like to do that. Just breathe there. So this is your active range of motion in your hip flexion, which is quite a bit further than when we're just sitting in that chair, right? We're shortening those muscles even more. And then take that foot down. So now we're going to go back to the right leg, and we're going to go into a really easy extension first. You're going to take your right foot, and now on an inhale, slide your right foot out and press through the foot. And notice how the top of the the top of the thigh will stretch. And if your back arches a lot, we just want to notice that first. If you get a big pocket of air underneath your lumbar spine, your low back, but we're going to fix that in a moment. So exhale, slide the foot back. Hopefully you've got a slippery surface or you're sliding through your carpet. I don't know. So you're going to inhale and push through that foot like you're pushing on a pedal. You might feel that stretch through the front of the thigh. If you're not feeling stretching through the front of the thigh, because we're going into just the beginning stages of extension, then you may be feeling the arch of the back. So as you exhale, press the low back and low ribs into the floor. Keep that connection of the low back on the ground and then try to extend. And that may help you to feel more stretching through the front of the thigh. And then exhale, just gently slide it back. So we want to keep the low back long as opposed to letting it arch when we push through that foot. And one more slide. And on the hold, make sure that low back is relaxed. You can even draw your abdomen in on the exhalation and long. If you want a little more stretching, you can take one or both arms overhead just to add the upper body. Just beginning to open the top of the thigh and that right leg. And then take the arms down, relax, slide the foot back in. Let's do the same thing with the left one. So take a breath in and think of expanding outward and forward with the left leg. And notice what happens naturally. Does your back arch? That's all right. Let it arch a few times. Exhale, slide it back. And this is good for your other joints too. You'll notice you're taking your knee through flexion and extension. We're just sliding it back on the exhale. If you don't want to do it to your breath, then don't. Just feel the movement. Enjoy the gentle joint motion, the way your joints can slide back and forth. But now if you do notice your back is arching when you're extending up, you've got that air pocket, then I'll encourage you as you're breathing out, draw your navel center in, press low back, low ribs into the floor. It's almost like your tailbone lifts just a little bit so the low back is long. Keep that support of the floor, the feeling of the floor on the low back as you extend. Push through your heel. You might feel a little more active stretching through the front of that left thigh. Taking time to pause anywhere you want, anytime you need to. So this is not synchronized practice. You don't have to be moving your leg every time with me. Just get the gist of it and make your own course of movement. And we'll take the next one into our hold. I like to keep it slightly active again, pressing through the heel just a little bit, keeping the low back down. Checking your breathing, always wanting to know that our breathing isn't restrained in any way, because then usually we're doing too much physically. And then we'll slide that leg back. Okay, we're going to put those two movements together, pretty simple, but in between, if you feel like you want to just roll your hips in circles, that's a kind of a nice one. You can think of that, those animal movements you did in the beginning, or the moving body parts. Take that moment to do that. And then we were drawing a leg in earlier, so you're going to do that. You're going to draw that left leg in on exhalation. But now on inhalation, you're going to extend the right leg. On exhalation, draw both legs back and just let them sit down. Take an inhale, and we're going to give you the option of adding arms to this too. Exhale, bring the left leg in. So really squeeze it in. Inhale, push through the right foot. If you want to add arms coming up on the inhale, you'll definitely get more stretch, but watch the whole back doesn't arch. Keep that back on the floor. And then as you exhale, take the left foot back. You can take the right foot back and relax. Exhale, left leg squeeze in. So active pose here, active movement of the hip flexion in the left leg. Active movement of hip extension in the right leg. Take a few breaths there. And exhale. Release it all. Let's do one more with a little bit longer hold if you'd like, or if you're enjoying the movement, do more movement. So I'm going to exhale, draw my navel center in, feel my core engage, draw the left leg in. So the left side of the hip is trying to lift up towards the sky, the back side. And the right leg is trying to push into the earth. Option to take arms overhead. And just holding and feeling that space. So we'll be doing low lunge in a little bit, and this is basically doing the low lunge leg position on your back to some degree, except the leg would be like this, foot up towards the sky. So if you want to try that, you can do that too. Get a little more stretching there in the front of the right thigh by taking that left foot up. And then exhale, release it all. Let's do the same thing on the opposite side. So cue that right leg into hip flexion as you breathe out. So you're going to take that breath out, draw the navel center in, draw the right leg in, hold that, breathe in, push through that left leg like you're pushing on a pedal. Take a breath out, release it, take another breath in, just feel. Option to add the arms to this side. Breathe out. Draw in through the right leg as close to your body as you can. Remember, this is active flexion. And then breathe in, press through that left leg. Maybe the arms come overhead. Hold it for a few breaths if you'd like. And then let it all go. Relax. Just do another one in motion. Taking a breath out. Bringing the right leg in towards your body. Taking a breath in, lengthen that left leg out, but keep the low back and low ribs on the ground. Option to take arms over, but if you find when the arms come over, if we have a lot of tightness in our upper back and shoulders too, the back will arch, so keep that back on the ground. Feel the whole length of the spine connecting to the earth. Let go, release. Let's do one more into our hold. I'm watching all the birds. I'm actually getting a little distracted today because they're so beautiful. Take an exhalation, draw the right leg in. Extend, left leg. Maybe the arms want to come up. And the arms can come up and you can keep a bend in the elbows too, just to get them overhead. Or you can really reach. Push through the left heel. Draw the top of the right foot towards the shin to get a little more action. Think of lengthening, like your legs are splitting in opposite directions. And if you want to feel a little bit more of what that low lunge is going to taste like in your body, then take your right foot up towards the sky just a little bit. Keep working the back of the left thigh into the ground. So think of working the back of the left knee down. Nice, easy, full breaths in and out. The birds remind me not to struggle. And then take a breath out. Let it all release. Okay, I'm going to turn towards you onto my left side. And I hope you do the same. Roll onto your left side. And I can use my left arm as a pillow. If that's not enough, then please grab a pillow or something off your couch, a blanket, an old sweatshirt, whatever works. Put it under your head. And we're going to do that same movement, just focusing on the right leg, but we're going to go extension and flexion. So now from the right side, you're going to lift up your right leg so that the foot is about the height of the hip. So we don't want it down on the ground. Start at least with it there. But again, there's room for play. You can do it up here eventually. You can do it down here. But to make it more of a voluntary movement, line the hip, the knee, and the ankle in the same line in space. And now you're going to inhale and take the leg behind you into extension. So I like to even reach the toes. The ankle can reach, the knee. So feeling that stretch through the front. And then as you exhale, pull it in. And now I draw the top of the foot towards my shin. So you're going extension as you breathe in, lengthen away from the center of the body, and flexion as you breathe out. Now with this one, let your back and spine really reply. So if you find your back is arching, that's what's naturally going to happen, right? So let your back arch as you breathe in and extend the leg. Take a few breaths there. Let your back and spine curl as you breathe out. And then we can add the arm as well. The right arm. I'm going to take this arm down now. You can add the head too, which I tend to do very naturally. Reaching through that whole right side. Arm and leg going in opposite directions. You can take your gaze up towards your right hand. And then as you exhale, draw it in. Squeeze in as tight as you can. Take a breath or two there. So you can either do this one breath, one movement. So it would be an inhale and exhale. Inhale. Feels so good today. Too much plane sitting, and exhale. Or you might pause anywhere you want. And like I said, you can work with lifting the leg up a little bit more. You'll get deeper into those outer hip muscles. So it doesn't have to be in line, or you might even drop the leg down and bring it in. It's up to you. Just letting, it's that same movement we did earlier. It's a pendulum swing. The only difference now is I am bending my knee to draw it in. But it's, you could go back to thinking when we were standing on our pedestal block, right? And we were pendulum swinging the leg. It's that same movement. And then this last one, I'm going to give you an option, if it's there for you, to take the right leg back, and then if you can, place the right foot on the ground. So it might be just the big toe side on the ground. If you can get the foot flatter, go ahead and do that. Just take it there for a moment and reach the right hand overhead. You can slide it back more and keep the leg straight or bent. But we're just trying to get a little stretch in the top of the thigh. So if I keep my knee bent, I'm going to feel it a little bit more in my inner thigh. If I keep the leg straight, it's an exploration, then I'm going to feel it more in the top of the thigh. Either one. Right arm overhead, you can breathe into your right lung, feel the length through your right side. So again, it's about, we're finding the parts, particularly the parts in the hip, and flexing and extending the hip, but feel the whole through that right side of your body. And release. Might feel good just to curl into a little fetal curl and rock yourself before we move on to the other side. And I'm going to flip so I'm facing you, but I'll ask you to roll onto your back side and just pause for a moment and see if you can feel a difference in the two sides of the body. So does the right hip and left hip feel any different right now? Sometimes I'll do these practices where I do all the movements on one side and then all the movements on the other side, so I can really feel the benefits. And then we'll roll on to the right side. Once you're there, you can use your right arm as a pillow or whatever you've got around the house. Left leg, I like to keep my left leg, like I said, so that at least to start, all the joints are in the same line, so I lift the foot up. That's up to you. And my right leg is just in a position that helps to balance me. So take a big breath in and think, reach as far as you can from the front of the hip crease. You're going to feel that nice open space in the front of the hip crease all the way through the toes. So even reach your toes. As you breathe out, bring that front thigh towards your body. Feel the back body so your buttocks will get a nice stretch. Stretch out that bum. And inhale into extension. I usually start with just the hip so I can feel that focal point, feel that part. You can keep the leg line in that same line, or you can lift it up, drop it down a little bit. It all makes a difference. And then maybe adding the arm in. I like to take my head down for that, but you may want a head support, reaching all the way through the left line. Think toes to fingers reaching in opposite directions. And then squeezing it in. And let your spine respond. So it'll feel like your back is coming into what we call back bend, right? On your inhalation, it'll arch. Your back will arch. And your back might curl a little bit on your exhalation as you draw the leg in. You can let your head follow the movement of your left hand if it feels good for your neck. And if you want to take an end point into a hold, I'm going to do that now. I like to just visualize that whole left side. Feeling through my left ribs, breathing into the left lung, perhaps. Feel that length and strength. but with a sense of softness and comfort. And then you can also take a hold. Well, the other option was to drop the foot down if that's more comfortable. So you can do it that way, extending the leg. And then drawing in and taking a hold just for a few breaths. And let it drop, coming onto your side body, rocking yourself in that fetal curl again if you enjoy that. And press your hands into the ground, come back up. Take your time. And now we're going to go into the Anjasana or low lunge pose. So the first thing to know is if you have any discomfort in your knees, any contraindication, you can either take a blanket underneath your back knee or you can simply double up your mat. I usually triple it like this, so you could triple your mat up. We're going to take the left knee back first and the right foot forward. So right foot forward, the key here is the position of the right foot. If I have it too far towards the back of my mat or towards my left foot, when I come forward, my heel's going to lift up. So that's how my cue that it's too far back. So use your hand, your right hand's like a crab claw. Take that foot forward. And the other side is if I have it too far forward, in order to bring my pelvis to its full forward position, I'm going to feel too much stretching in that back left leg. So we want just a nice easeful stretch in the back leg. The other thing to check is that your feet are as wide as your hips. So I see a lot of times students with their feet, their feet are almost in the same line, or their right foot with their knee. So widen that foot out to the side so you get some space in your hips. See where that feels good? And then this is where your blocks might come in. You can take your blocks, put them on their highest height, because what tends to happen is we're rounded in our back. So push your hands in to the blocks and lengthen your spine. And we're just going to just let our body go forward and back. I like to exhale back and inhale forward. If you don't want to time it to your breath, it's not required. Nothing is required because it's your body, your practice. It's an exploration again. So just coming back and forth. You can change the sensation just by bringing the blocks to the inside of the right foot and then bring the right foot more to the right side of the mat. So if it was right here, I might even tip on the pinky toe. You can also make circles. It doesn't have to be a front to back movement, right? So you might circle your pelvis around. So the back left leg is in the extension, the front right leg is in flexion. Some people prefer with the back leg to push the top of the foot into the ground. That is going to ground you more and give you more stability. You can also roll your back toes under and push the undersides of the toes into the ground to give your knee more support. But the truth is, I'm really not on the kneecap. We want to feel like the weight is on the top of the kneecap, above the kneecap. That's the key with the positioning. And so just take a few more rolls and then continue to use the blocks if you'd like. We're going to let the hips shift forward as far as they can go comfortably. But then we want to create some stability too. So if I'm just pushing forward, I'm going to feel a lot of stretching, maybe discomfort even. So now think of drawing the right shin towards the left thigh and the left inner thigh towards the front of the mat. So you're squeezing your legs towards one another, but still bringing the pelvis forward. Hands could stay on the blocks. You might be able to come up to your thigh for a few breaths in Anjasana. Or if you're really feeling it today, reach up towards the tops of the trees. And I get to look at the birds. So bigger extension for that back left leg. So you choose. Take a few breaths. Check in with your breath. That diagnostic tool. Is it still flowing freely and easily? So a combination of pelvis coming forward to stretch and hugging the thighs in to stabilize. Any other arm position that you enjoy? Take 2 more breaths. And hands back down. We're going to take the right knee back next to the left, come off of your blocks. You can keep that mat doubled over and come to all fours. We're going to do one more movement with that left leg before we switch to the other side. So you're going to keep both hands on the ground to start. We're in a table pose. So we want to lift the abdomen or puff up the kidneys so our core is strong. We're not dropping into the belly. And then take your left leg back, press through the ball of the foot for a moment. And you're going to lift that leg up, reach through the leg and lift it on inhale. That's back into our extension. So now you will feel your back and spine come into a little bit more of an arch. As you exhale, pull the leg in and curl. You can even bring your nose towards your knee. Inhale into extension. Exhale into flexion. So I like to do this with both my hands on the ground, mostly because I'm honoring my hip this way, focusing on my hip. But for those of you that are on a little bit more today, you're welcome to take your right hand up, extend through your right arm as you extend through your left leg, and exhale, knee to elbow. It also makes it harder for me to talk to you when I work harder, so. But you could do that version, or just keep your hands on the ground and keep your shoulders strong, right? You're still building that strength in your shoulders. Push the floor away from you with the hands and just play with taking that leg in and out. And while you're there, if you feel like making some circles with the hip, by all means do that. I like to. All right, we'll drop that one down. We're going to take a resting pose just for a few breaths. If you like child's pose, simply take your hips back towards your heels. You could use your arms as a pillow. Put a block underneath your head if your head's not touching the ground. If child's pose isn't your favorite, feel free to come forward and just rest on your belly and let your body be long. Same thing, you can put your arms underneath your forehead. We're going to take just a moment to pause before we go into our next body prayer movement. When you're ready, whether you're in your child's pose or just resting on your belly, feeling your heart rate, come back into all fours. Knees can be in that extra padding. So this time it's the left leg that we're going to bring forward for Anjasana. So I'm going to slide it forward slowly. I can take my hand to my calf and help it there. Because again, if it's too far back, the heel's going to lift up. And we really don't benefit from the stretch of the hip and the top of the thigh. We don't go into the flexion. So slide that forward. Keep your feet as wide as your hips. Keep some space. So think broaden your pelvis. Take those blocks because you're probably rounded through your spine. Push your hands into the blocks. I'm not just holding them. I'm going to push into them to lift up and then come forward and back. You can just do the forward and back motion first. I like to inhale forward, exhale back. So again, feel like the movement is coming from the pelvis, from the hip creases. But let the rest of your body respond, and you'll notice how your spine might go back into that back bend as you come forward a little bit. Your chest opens. As you exhale and pull the hips back, your body rounds. So that's one of the problems too with sitting a lot is we're in the spinal position of flexion. Our spine is rounded, the front body is shut, and the back body is long. So we're letting the spine respond. But mostly just exploring. And if you want to bring both blocks or both hands into the left, it's into the big toe side of the left foot, you could change that position, drop the left leg out to the side, get a little more inner groin stretch. That's up to you. All right. Toot your own horn today. What do you need? I enjoy this stretch. You can also make more of a circular motion with the pelvis. So what can your hips do when that left leg is in flexion and the right leg is in extension? Where do they want to go? Is there tightness anywhere in your backside, your bum that we sit on, in the front of the right thigh? You're just noticing. And then setting yourself up for success. So we want to find that footprint that feels good, front to back, and the width that feels good. And then draw the pelvis forward. That's where you're going to get your stretch when you bring your pelvis forward, but not so much that you're overstretching. Now, draw your left calf or even your left heel towards the back of the mat, and your right thigh towards the front of the mat. So it's as if you had a ball between your thighs and you're squeezing that. So that's creating that stability. You can keep your hands on the blocks. The blocks are way out here. Walk them back so that you can get your shoulders a little bit taller over your hips and still use the blocks. Or hands could come just to the thigh. Or you can reach up for the birds. Oh, I just scared them all away. Now I feel bad. Just taking the hands up. Top of the right foot can press into the floor. I tend to do that to keep this right leg line more engaged. Or you can roll the toes under and gently push into the underside of the toe creases. Breathe and feel. Stay present, whatever pops up and presents itself to you. If your hands are up, take them back down. Use your blocks, step that left leg next to the right leg, come to all fours. Find a nice sturdy table pose to start. So push the hands into the ground. You can dial your wrist creases outward and your elbows forward, your front of your elbows forward so you feel like your shoulders are strong. And then we're going to take just the right foot back, press through the right foot for a moment. Nice way to stretch the back of the calf too. And then lift it up. Lift as high as you can. So one thing I watch for is that we're not rolling the hip up so much. I'm trying to lift straight up and back. That's going to get me more of the back arch versus lifting the outer hip. Keep the outer hip pointing out down towards the floor as you lift up. You can even point your toe and then squeeze in. And this will create like a cat-cow movement for the back. So the cat-cow this is the cow, right? That's the cat. So let the spine flow with the leg. Inhaling and exhaling. And if overachieving is in your book today, no, it's not overachieving by any means. If you just want to practice more balance or a little more strengthening, then we reach through the left arm and squeeze in. And remind yourself, you just did this exact same movement, only we were lying on our side, right? And we were same side of the body, so a little bit different, but. Or you can do it with both hands grounded. And focus on just the leg, the movement. That coordination of muscles to find your end point or your greatest space of mobility with comfort. And if you want to do any other funky movements, just rolling the hip around. So I tend to have tightness that stays in my left side, so I'll start to fall to the left side. So it's a reminder, draw your inner left thigh towards the center of the mat. Keep your left hip over your left knee for stability. And then we'll drop down. This time we're going to come onto our back. So we're going to finish up, as I mentioned, with a Yin posture. And you're going to want your blocks, or a block actually. So I'm going to turn this way. We'll do the right leg first. So really going back to what we did in the beginning when we were on our back, but adding a little bit more of a scrumptious stretch. You're going to take both feet to the floor and the knees bent. Push into your feet just enough to lift up and put the block underneath, not your lumbar spine. That's really uncomfortable, but underneath the wide part of your butt, like it's a seat. Find that, position it right there. And let your shoulders relax. You can do your little animal wiggles, move your hips around. And to start with, we're going to stretch the left top of the thigh first. Just leave your right foot on the floor and begin to extend the left leg as we did earlier. Just slide it out. And you might notice a bigger stretch through the top of the thigh. So I can do just that. And I could take my arms overhead. And I'm getting a beautiful stretch through the front line of my body, particularly the left leg. So this is one option for you. If you want a little bit more, then before you extend the left leg out, draw the right leg actively in towards your body to do a little adjustment. Bring it in, and this time you can even hold it with the arms if you'd like. Bring that right leg in and then slide the left leg out, and that will increase that stretch through the top of the left thigh. It's almost like the edge of your butt. The bottom edge is just hanging off the block, but let your low back hang as well. Let it be long. So you could hold the leg there. You could take your arms over. If the right leg is in flexion, it doesn't have to stay knee in line with the shoulder. You could take it to the center of the body, out to the side. Sometimes I just get playful, even though yin is usually a still practice. And we hold the poses a little longer. You can play with, taking this right leg and hip into more of like a pigeon position out to the side. Just love it up. Or focus on that feeling right into that open space in the front of the left hip crease. And I'm going to be quiet and just allow you to breathe and be in this position. And in the yin postures, we relax the muscles. So if you're gripping anywhere, holding on, you can even just let the weight of the right thigh fall towards your body. If that's not happening, place it on the ground. Let the weight of the left thigh fall towards the ground. The back and spine, especially on the breath out, just let it fall. So letting the muscles relax onto the bones. Feel yourself through your bones. We'll take about 8 to 10 more rounds of breath. All right. When you're ready to come out, if your arms are overhead, maybe take those down first. Come out one limb at a time, or one portion of the body at a time, upper body. And then if the right leg is up, you might place that on the floor and slowly draw that left leg in. We're going to come off the block in between the two sides, so just slide that out. Let your low back feel how long it is when it connects with the earth. And from this position, if you want to just be still, extend your legs. You might notice a difference through the right and left. I generally like a little bit of movement when I'm working with the hips, so I'll bend my knees and do some of those clock face hip circles. So I'm just rolling my pelvis in circles. I think of pushing the tailbone down, then the right hip, the low back and low ribs, the left hip, and going around. Just enjoying that simplicity of moving your hips like a dance. And then pause for a moment at your center. If your legs are extended, bring them back in so we can gently press into the feet, engage the muscles just enough to lift up and put that block back underneath us. Take a moment, make sure it's in the right spot. Little bit of the edge of your bum hanging off, but the low back is long and relaxed. And start by just sliding the right foot out from there and see how that feels for the front of the thigh. If that's a good stretch, and you'll know, because if you can't release the muscles, if everything's trying to tighten to protect you, then you don't want to go any further. You should be able to jelly roll the leg and just let it relax. If you do want a little bit more, then before you extend the right leg, bring the left leg in. I'm going to bring it in actively for a moment, so that's flexed. And then extend the right leg. Ooh, this one responds differently. Tell me if you have that too. This one's got a whole little party in the front of the right thigh. Option with either of these, so even with left foot on the ground, to take your arms overhead. Just watch when you do that, that if the back of the heart door lifts off the floor, let it fall, let it sink. Keep that back long. So find your space. The first usually 30 seconds of yin is finding where you can just hang out. And yins are poses of being as opposed as not doing. Our low lunge was a pose of doing. And really, this is your low lunge position once again, right? But in a space where gravity is holding your body, you don't have to do anything. Feel the weight of the back of the right thigh and the knee falling to the ground, the calf. The weight of the bones will just take you deeper into the posture. Feel that spaciousness in the front of the right hip. Maybe that whole right line, side of the body. Relaxing the muscles onto the bones. We can use our breath anytime we want, just by visualizing any spaces where there's tightness, tenderness, discomfort. See it as you breathe in, and just invite it to leave your body as you breathe out. We just notice, and we release. No questions, no comparisons, no judgments, just noticing and releasing. Enjoy this position for another 8 to 10 breaths. I have the pleasure of hearing the birds and the crickets, and I'm just taking all those sounds and sending them into the top of my right thigh, imagining the vibration of all of the sounds around me and sending them into my thigh. Vibration is life, it's movement. So however you can do that for yourself, begin to slowly come out. You can take your arms down. If the right leg is lifted, let the foot find the earth. And very slowly, gratefully slide your right leg back in. Once both feet are on the ground, you can lift up just enough to take the block out, or I will give you an option if you're definitely more open in your thighs for our relaxation. You can keep the block there and extend both legs for your relaxation. I do not advise this if there's too much pulling in the front of the thighs or in your low back. In that case, just come off and let your body ground. Sometimes I do both. I'll come off and let my body ground for a moment and then go back on the block. It just wants that second of complete relief and space of grace. But I'm going to let you choose no block or a block. Arms can be wherever it feels best for you, at your sides, overhead. My position, my chosen position is typically nice, soft, elbows bent, shoulder blades spread on the ground. Whatever is touching the ground, feel that space. Feel into all of the parts of your body that are supported by the earth. And as you breathe out, imagine that the earth is just coming up around you and surrounding you and supporting the weight of your body. You know you're fully supported and coddled and loved by what's underneath you. Let's see if you can take your awareness down into your pelvis. And find that space where in your pelvis where your torso, your trunk becomes your legs, and your legs become your torso. And feel the entire circumference of that space. The inner thighs, the tops of the thighs, the outer thighs and hips, and even the backs of the thighs. Remember the ways that you were able to create mobility in this space in your body, in this joint that attaches your legs to your torso. Also remember the strength that you have in these spaces, the way you appreciate the muscles in your legs, both the fronts and the backs of the thighs. Maybe in the pelvis itself, the abdomen, the outer hips, the back. And each breath out is gaining us that sense of relaxation and support. Imagine you can breathe into the fronts of the thighs as if your thighs themselves are breathing. Just like the birds around me, crickets. The thighs are expanding as you breathe in, feeling that vibratory prana coming into your body, and just releasing and relaxing as you breathe out. Before we come out, readjust yourself, arms maybe to your sides if they are overhead. If you have the bolster or the block underneath you, please make sure you slide your legs in first. And even if you don't have the block, you can slide your legs in first, but we'll want to come off the block. Let the low back settle, and then perhaps rolling onto one side, the side of your choosing. Pausing again, especially since if you had the tops of the thighs stretched, just do that counter pose of taking yourself into a fetal curl. It feels good, right? Few breaths into the back body. And when you're ready, you can use your arms to press up into a seated position. So I hope that this practice helped to give you some ideas of different ways. It doesn't have to be all of these movements or poses that you can counteract the sitting that we're often required to do. Thank you for joining me, especially again to my patrons. I am going to be announcing a new series coming this fall, which is going to be somatic shorts. And you'll want to sponsor me on Patreon to get the full benefits, which will include some PDFs of these somatic short practices I'm putting together. Hope you're enjoying your summer. Peace, joy, love, and light. Namaste.